What is borderline personality disorder, or PPD? Why does it develop and how do we treat it? So first off, this image represents the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria. It's the summary of it. I'm not going to go through each one of them at a time, but the overall constellation is of someone who have an empty sense of self, who crave validation, who feel very easily hurt and betrayed with an intense fear of abandonment. And from that fear, the emotion is extremely intense and volatile to the extent that it appear unpredictable, chaotic, intense anger. When the emotion gets too intense, they might end up doing impulsive thing or dangerous thing, including hurting or cutting themselves, and maybe even thought of or the action of trying to kill themselves. So that's the constellation. Now, how does it develop? What psychological journey for a person to get to that point? And PPD is interesting in the sense that it addressed one of the most fundamental components of the CONAF psychological framework, which is the need for affirmation. Assuming this is the first time you are seeing my series, I'm just going to go do a quick review of the CONAF psychological framework, which is the circle of needs and fulfillment. So in this circle, there are 7 components. Starting from the bottom, there is the need for safety and security, then the need for affirmation, that I exist, that I matter, the need to feel competent and capable, the need to feel superior, special, unique, the need to feel stimulated and excited with novel, interesting new things, the need for meaning and purpose, and also the need for sex drive or libido. Those are 7 needs. So for BPD, we are focusing primarily on affirmation. And what does a healthy sense of affirmation looks like? Assuming that a kid is brought up in an environment where the parents have their own CONAF, whole and fulfilled and mended, so the parents can provide for the kid whole CONAF, including the need for affirmation. So let's say when this kid is young, like a toddler age, and just sitting around playing with a bunch of blocks or toys, when he or she look over and see the parents looking at him or her and noticing that the parents' eyes are just glowing with lots of love and joy and pride and warmth, then what message does that send to the kid? The message is, hey, you exist. You matter just for existing and breathing. And so when the kid internalizes that message, it becomes a statement of unconditional love, that for me, just by existing, I am worthy, I am valued, I am good enough, I am acknowledged. So when a kid lives life like that, then when that kid go out there and see different people and interact with classmates and teachers and coaches and whatnot, then the lenses that the kid put on from the mom and the dad or the parents or the caregiver is what, like, hey, I have worth, I have value. So even if I don't know you, I assume that if you get to know me, you will like me. And when that belief system is in place, then that can breed confidence and pride and comfort and positivity to engage with others. And when that engagement happens, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that, hey, I expect you to like me, I expect you to treat me well, and therefore I will treat you similarly. There is a natural sense of reciprocation, and so that self-fulfilling prophecy become a reality. Now that's a positive side. So let's look at the negative side. What would happen when a person doesn't get that sense of affirmation? So let's say a kid is growing up, and because the parents are neglectful for whatever reason, maybe their own CONAF is fractured, and maybe the parents came together without having mended their own circle. So the environment the parents created is not very stable, it's actually very chaotic, and neglectful or even abusive toward a kid. So a kid, like any human being, is craving affirmation, which is basically, hey, I want to know that my existence matters, that I have intrinsic worth and value in my inherent existence, in the sense of unconditional love. So a kid is craving for that, longing for that, craving that, starving for that. And when they get it, great. But if they don't get it, then they wonder, what is my worth and value? Do I have worth and value? I know my parents should love me and care for me and give me the time and attention and effort, but how come I'm not getting it? What's going on? Is something wrong with me? And all these questions, in a sense, they are loaded questions, because in the question is the answer. Something is wrong with me. I am not good enough. I am not worthy. I am not valuable. I don't have enough, whatever it is, to get the acknowledgement. So then, who am I even? What am I? And so this kid, in craving and starving for that sense of affirmation, will start pondering, what do I have to do? What do I need to do, or who do I need to be to get some sort of affirmation and validation and attention from my parents? And now it becomes a game of trying to guess what other people want from me. And in a sense, it unintentionally transforms a person into a sort of chameleon seeking for attention. And that's why without a strong sense of self and identity, a sort of emptiness, because I don't know who I am, I don't know my worth and value. All I know is if I do this with this person, or be this with this person, I get some validation, affirmation. If I do this and be this with this person, I get validation if I do that, right? So in a sense, for the sake of affirmation, which we all want, then a person can put on a mask, right? Or just like figure things out. What do other people want? So I can become that. And in the process of that, they lose themselves. They don't know who they are. And that is the source of this sense of emptiness. And the thing with connection, right? Because basic affirmation is connection, and the best connection, the true connection, is authentic and genuine and consistent. When a person does not have a consistent sense of self, and that they are holding on a mask at different layers, then the connection they make is not authentic either. It's not authentic, it's not genuine, it's not consistent or persistent. So then when things go well, a person is starving, right? They're starving, and then they get a little bit of something, right? Then it feels good, right? Like, hey, my need is being met temporarily. But then because it's not consistent and authentic and genuine, then something will happen. And when something happens, then the person now feel hurt and rejected and unwanted, which now bring back the memory of the trauma of neglect and abandonment when they were a kid. So they might not recognize, oh, this pain of feeling abandoned and rejected and unwanted, this pain isn't just because of me and that one person right now in this present moment. The emotion they feel is an overwhelming tempest, like a tsunami of emotions from the past that they don't remember the exact events or circumstances, but they just remember how painful it was, right? To be abandoned, to longing for love and connection and attention from the parents. So then one present incident trigger a tsunami or an avalanche of past trauma, past pain, past hurt. And when they get swept by that tempest, that maelstrom, is overwhelming. And when it gets overwhelming, then how do I protect myself with this overwhelming pain? How do I prevent hurt and pain? Then the strategy is that, well, it's better for me to cut out the other person first, like do a preemptive strike, right? Preemptively push people away. Maybe not even consciously, but it's a subconscious protective strategy, right? To push people away. And also to, in the moment of anger, right? Now I'm just like a puppet and anger is controlling me. So I'm just instinctually, reflexively acting out anger. So when I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm in pain and hurt and grievance give rise to anger. So now my anger is lashing out at people, and other people is confused. And in their confusion, at first they might try to cool things down and talk things out. But if that's my pattern over time, over and over again, eventually people will get tired and they will move on. And now I'm reinforced with a message, oh, I am not good enough. I am not worthy enough. Something is wrong with me. People always leave me. So with that perception in mind, which reinforces itself, then every interaction, the person is always on a hypervigilance, as an extreme sensitivity to rejection and abandonment. So let's say the person make plan with someone and that someone else has to cancel last minute. What is the truth, right? So maybe the truth is that the other person, maybe their grandmother died, maybe they had a flat tire, maybe they got sick, maybe they had a bad day, maybe they had a breakup, right? So whatever the reason is, the assumption of the PPD person is, oh, this person cancel out on me because they don't like me. Or maybe even worse, they cancel out on me so then they can enjoy my misery, knowing how much I'm suffering. And so it's catastrophic thinking, is negative assumption based on past trauma and past hurts and past pain. And with that assumption, then hurt and pain and anger and the reaction, it comes out. And that's why it's so important to ground ourselves in truth. And we will talk about that later too. So now the reminder of hurt and pains come out, the angers come out, the preemptive pushing away, the lashing out, anger. And so let's say now I push the other person away. Now I'm by myself again, rejected again, abandoned again. And I might not be aware of the memories of the past, but now all these emotions coming at me. What do I do with this emotion, right? I am like a doll or a leaf getting blown by the wind, the raging storm. So one strategy is to distraction, right? It's for distraction, which is to do impulsive thing, like something out there, something just crazy, right? Maybe even dangerous, right? To distract from the pain, because the emotion is so much and me sitting in it is so uncomfortable. So that's one strategy. Another strategy could be, how can I distract myself from the emotional pain, or maybe the physical pain, by hurting myself? Can the physical pain distract from the emotional pain? And in that moment, I forget the emotional pain exists and I'm just focusing on the emotional pain. Or sometimes too, the emotional pain is so strong, over time, my reflex is to just be numb, just numb it out. And by hurting myself, I get this shock of feeling alive. Right now I'm alive versus being numb. Or maybe hurting myself, it play into the sense of something is wrong with me. I'm a sinful person. I did horrible things. I'm wrong. And so by me hurting myself, I am getting some sort of repentance. So that's the self-harming part. And as the depression, right, feeling rejected and unwanted and abandoned, not just from the outside but deep within, thinking I have no worth and value, I'm just worthless, right? That's a horrible feeling. So, and if it keeps happening over and over and over again, not realizing maybe part of that is my own action and my own pattern of maladaptive behaviors and belief and thoughts and emotion and assumption without realizing that I play a part in this. I keep doing it over and over again, and I keep being rejected over and over again. It's going to get to the point of eventually a point of loneliness, right? Depression, despair, and hopelessness. And in that hopelessness, despite me trying so hard, bending over backward to please people, to get that affirmation, that love that I so desperately wanting, and it hurts so much. Maybe the only one solution I can think of is just to end it, right? Just to kill myself. And so that's the psychological landscape and development of borderline personality disorder. It's actually very rational, it's very logical, and from the outside looking in, as an outside person engaging with a person with PPD, it can feel very unpredictable, right? Let's say you meet someone and at first they seem nice and you like them, then you get closer, but as you get closer, then like red flags start showing up, like, oh, I feel like I'm being low-key accused of certain things, or like gaslighted into my intention as not being caring or genuine, but the truth is I am exploring this relationship, this friendship, right? And then as you get closer to that person, then now this nice friendly person have such emotional intensity that they can be nice and friendly one moment, and then boom, they get mad and angry at me, and I can talk things out a few times, but if it happened over and over again, I'm sorry, but my energy, my bandwidth, my tolerance can only handle so much. And I realize, I enjoyed it when it's good, but this is too much for me. I can't, right? So then I will step away to save myself, right? And so that's how I start looking in. But then from the inside looking out, right? Like, I'm a person with PPD, I'm craving attention. I find someone who can give me a little bit of attention, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this feels good, right? So then I cling on, right? I grasp onto this source of affirmation and validation that I needed so badly. But then over the course of time, I sense hesitation, I sense some moments of coldness or distance. And because of my assumption, then I'm like, oh no, this person rejected me too. So now I'm hurting, right? Out of my hurt and pain, I act the way I do. So from the inside looking out and the outside looking in, it's actually very sad, right? And tragic in a sense. So then how do I, with PPD, find a way to address this, right, at the root cause? So then, knowing what we know, right, the strong emotion, the root cause of need for affirmation, of worth and value. So for me, I think it's important that the first step with emotional intelligence, right, with any sort of psychological framework, is first to learn to be comfortable with emotions, positive and negative, which is a technique of mindfulness, right? So going back to that example of, like, imagine if your emotion is like the weather. If it's nice and pleasant and breezy and sunny, everyone can sit outside, right? But then when the weather gets cloudy and drizzling and raining and stormy and raging, people run inside the house, which is a natural reflex, right? But in a sense, with the weather, yes, definitely do that. Don't be wandering around, like in a storm and stuff. Then people look at you like you're crazy. But with emotions as weather, right? Weather is sunny and pleasant and breezy, or stormy and raging. We have to learn to be in that environment, to feel the emotion washing through us, and not let it control us, right? So going back to that example of intense emotion as a raging tempest and maelstrom, right? Like waves crashing against the cliff and wind raging and howling, it's important that definitely don't run away, right? Don't run away, but at the same time, don't be in it and be a victim or be a puppet of it where now you're getting thrown and thrashed around, right? What you want is that, how can I be in the middle of this storm, this tornado, be in the eye of the storm, but find my center of stillness and presence, right? So then imagine it's raging, it's storming, and now you are a monk, right? A meditating monk levitating, surrounded by a bubble of awareness, right? So then the storm, the wind, the rain, the wave, the fire too, right? It's all like crashing about you, but you are in it without being of it, right? And that's mindfulness. That's like, hey, I acknowledge the intense emotion, I feel it passing by me, and it's okay, I can sit with it, right? I can be in it without it affecting me. So in a sense, when you're struck by anger, right, the reflexes, if you give into the storm, then the storm crashes you against the cliff, right? Then in the outside, you crashing against the cliff of anger is now you're hitting, or you're talking, you're being cruel with your words to cut someone down. But if you're a monk meditating inside this levitating bubble, then the wind is raging, right? But it doesn't touch you, and you're like, I know I'm angry, but let me watch my anger, let me feel my anger, and let it wash by me. So that's the inside. But on the outside, you're angry, but you're not responding to anger. You're being silent, right? You're holding things in. You're reflecting. You're like, where does the anger come from? I know it's angry. I'm feeling it, right? I'm learning to be comfortable with anger and hurt and pain and disappointment and shame and embarrassment, whatever the emotions are. So once you can do that, then you can examine, where does emotion come from, right? And so that's why for BPD, a good technique to address it at first is DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy. And DBT is basically mindfulness, right? DBT is a systematic structure of mindfulness, and mindfulness has been in existence for thousands of years, right? But because it's structured and it's precise, then it can be very useful to help a person, like, hey, you have emotion and there's emotional dysregulation. How do you learn to regulate your emotion? How do you learn mindfulness, right? So that's I think the first step with everything. And then the second step is, now we get to more like CBT, right? Cognitive behavior therapy. It's like, well, okay, so assuming you're talking with your therapist, right? Like, well, with my friend, this event happened, right? This event happened. We make plans. I was looking forward to it. My friend canceled out on me, and I don't know why, but this is what thought crossed my mind, that she doesn't like me. So then I got really mad. I texted back, so, and then that's in the present moment. And with your therapist, then you can start exploring, well, yes, in that present moment, what was going on through your mind at the time, and what does it reveal about your assumption and belief. And if we keep going deep down enough, what is your core belief? And over time, it should hit to the core belief of, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I have value. I don't have worth. I don't have inherent worth or value. My worth and value is dependent on something else, and I don't know what it is. And so when you get to that point, which is like CBT, right? Again, mindfulness of your own thoughts, right? Then now the question is, what is the truth, right? What is the truth of that incident with your friend? What is the truth of why she canceled out on you? What is the truth of your assumption? And what is the truth of your core belief? So we have to ask, what is the truth? What is the true worth and value of anyone? And how we answer that question, it has to be applied to every single person out there. And now if we're saying that, oh, my worth and value is dependent on my parents being effective parents and doing the right thing and mended their own circle, and therefore they provided me a full circle, especially with affirmation, that's my worth and value. So my worth and value is dependent on how well my parents did years ago. Even now, maybe they passed away already. But if that's the case, then what about the worth and value of a kid who happen to have parents who are struggling with their own issues? Because remember, no one is perfect, right? And so then it is a philosophical concept, but philosophy really impacts belief system and value system and how we act because of that, right? So that's why for me, I feel like everyone has to come up with their own answer. But for me, the person's worth and value is that they exist and that they try to be a better person, period. End of story, right? And the truth is that we cannot choose our parents, we cannot choose our beginning, we cannot choose our race or nationality or location, family, right? Even our natural looks and level of intelligence, right? Those kind of things. Or even is there any birth deformities, right? We can't choose any of that. So the truth is that, in a sense, life seems like a gamble in the beginning, right? But then how do we make the most of that? So the true worth and value of any person is that they exist and that they're trying to be a better person. And in the process of trying to be a better person, they are learning wisdom, right? And gearing toward virtues. And with wisdom comes discernment and insight of the question of worth and value for myself and others, and mending my own CONAF, my own circle. And once I can do that, then I can expand my consciousness and focus on mending and helping other people mend their circles as well. So I think that's the true worth and value of any person. That's why BPD, once you get down to it, it can be addressed effectively. It can be treated and resolved. I know this one video, it sounds much easier said than done, right? But then this is just the intellectual understanding of the condition. But for you to go from the extreme one extreme of I have no worth and value, I'm worthless, no one cares for me, no one loves me because I don't deserve it, right? To go from that to I do have worth and value just by existing and trying to be a better person, and then let me focus on mending my circle and virtues of wisdom and kindness and compassion and patience for myself first, and then for other people, and perseverance and understanding and integrity and honesty, right? I know from going to here and to here, it sounds much easier said than done, but the path exists. It is very possible, and that's why we get help, right? So I hope that makes sense, right? Affirmation is a big thing. But not all of us have PPD, but all of us have this need for affirmation. So all of us, in one way or another, have at some point struggled with feeling that question of what's my worth and value? Do I have worth and value? What's wrong with me, right? So maybe we don't have to the point of a disorder, right? Which is a pervasive, persistent pattern of behavior that repeat over the course of lifetime and interaction that make it detrimental with a negative impact on the person being. But a typical average person struggle with those questions every now and then as well. But because a typical person has a strong sense of self, then even with question and doubt, they can always ground themselves. You know what? Maybe I make a mistake, but I know my worth and value, right? And so it is a spectrum, right? It is a spectrum, and ultimately with affirmation, as you get older and much wiser, affirmation has to come from within. It has to come from inside of you, that knowing that people are imperfect, including our parents, your parents, my parents, everyone's parents, we cannot depend our worth and value on someone else, including them, right? Even including our loved ones, right? It has to come from within, self-affirmation. And with self-affirmation, once you can ground yourself in self-affirmation and you can learn to develop authenticity and genuine interest and hobby, right? That's a recipe for authentic connection, right? So yeah, self-affirmation, that's the key to affirmation, but it takes time, right? It takes time, and it sounds, again, easier said than done, but for people who can get there, right? Life is simpler and more enjoyable versus always chasing after external validation. So even if someone is successful at getting external validation, it's very hard to be at peace, right? Because you're always like, what if it's go away? Right now I'm always performing, right? It's performative versus authentic. So yeah, so affirmation is super important. Affirmation along with safety, security, and competence, those three, if you can get grounded on those three, I think you're in a good place, right? So yeah, so that's my thing on PPD. Feel free to leave in the comments any questions, and I hope this makes sense. All right, thank you. Bye.